More of your go-to for all things home. This is Home Answers Radio, presented by JeffBuysYourHouse.com, Access, Level 10 Coatings, Steiner Homes, Center Guard Plumbing, and by American Beam and Steel. Once again, here's Roger Piper.
Your go-to for all things home. It's Home Answers Radio.
Hi, welcome to Home Answers. I'm Roger Piper. This show is all about your home. We talk about everything. And I'll tell you what, I'll make you one little promise. If you spend the next few minutes with us, you're going to learn probably a few things that you didn't know. Got a special guest today, Mark Hauptman. He's with American Beam and Steel. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Roger.
All right, American Beam and Steel. Give us an overview of what your company does.
Really, we do just a few things, but I would call it all structural repair.
Okay.
I don't build new houses anymore. I don't do additions. I've done a lot of things in the past, but what we really focus on right now is repairing structural deficiencies in your home.
Okay, give us examples of that would, qualify under that. Because we live in an area where structural issues do happen, period.
Yes.
They do.
Yes.
So give us an example of where a homeowner would need you.
I'll give you a great example. One thing that surprises people is we have termites, for example. In the city of Chicago, we have termites everywhere.
Right.
So termites will crawl up inside of a wooden post and eat the entire beam along the length of the building. So it's very common for us. We probably do one a month where we take the old rotten beams out of the house and put in steel. That's one. It could be someone put those temporary screw-up columns in their basement.
Sure.
Well, when you transfer a property, the bank will not allow you to close on a property with temporary posts, so we take them out and put in permanent posts. Sometimes we put in new footings. Another common thing, people want an open floor plan, so we take out a bearing wall in the middle of the house and we put in a steel beam or a wood beam to give you an open floor plan. That's more and more common now because people want an open floor plan.
Right, and you have to maintain the structural integrity of that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And so it's one of those cases where if something is outdated, it needs to be taken care of because codes change all the time.
That's right.
Maybe you've got some settling going in your home or some things that have caused issues.
It's very common. And one of the issues with settling, water is the biggest enemy to a home.
Yep.
So I looked at a project this morning at 9 in the morning where they had water that infiltrated into the sill plate area on top of the foundation, and it rotted the sill plates along the back of the house. Well, this is an older home. It did not have those treated plates, the green treated plates.
Right.
So we are able to go in, lift up that house again, remove the rotten material, put in fresh treated material, and set the house back down. And now it's the way it was built. It's at the right height, flat, level, perfect again.
Yeah. How do you know that you're starting to have some structural issues? I mean, sometimes it's obvious, okay? You can tell where something's uneven or things like that. But if you want your house to be kind of built like a fortress and you want it strong, what are some things that you should watch for that maybe you might have some structural issues besides termites?
Well, the reason we were called this morning, the homeowner recognized that they had plaster cracking on the interior wall. Sometimes it's an exterior wall. The plaster cracking is a good indicator that there's structural issues. They also noticed over time, and the worst area was under this bathroom where they had water also leaking out of a tub.
Yeah, there's water again, right?
The it's the enemy of every home.
Yep.
So the issue, they could tell that the floor was sloping. If you put a marble in the bathroom floor, it rolled toward the tub. Mm-hmm. So the clues are really kind of obvious. Cracked drywall is one indicator, and a floor that slopes. Because your house was not built on an angle. Your house was built flat and level. So if you have a sloping floor today, this is something that's happened over time, whether it's water or neglect, or, for example, a plumber, back in the day when we would frame houses, you have, let's say, 2x10 floor joists.
Right.
Then the plumber will come in and drill big holes through those floor joists to run his plumbing. Well, the plumber, he didn't do you any service there. So over time, if you set a bathtub on top of that, a toilet and a bathtub, over time, those joists are going to fail.
Right.
So we have to pick those back up, whether we sister those joists or we put a wall underneath that bathroom to re-support it. This is, again, a very common repair for us. Quite often, it happens because of water.
Water, there it is again.
Yeah.
We're talking with Mark Hopman. He's with American Beam and Steel. And you're in Orland Park, and you can give him a call anytime, 708-212-6202, 708-212-6202. And you can go to the website. It's abeamsteel.com for American Beam and Steel. If people are looking to do renovations a lot of time, you know, they're going to knock out a wall. Okay, they're gonna knock this wall out, going to knock that wall out, we're going to do all of that. Many times they find out that... you know, it's not that simple and easy, is it?
I'd say no. Well, one of the questions that we can answer for people very quickly, many people call and ask if a wall is a bearing wall.
Right.
So we do site visits quite often to determine some walls are bearing a load and some aren't. And some you can take out with no consequence. Some you've got to take out and put a beam in its place, whether that beam's below the ceiling or in construction. But we would run out and do a site visit to determine if that wall is bearing any load or not.
Yeah, wouldn't it be safe to say if you're a homeowner and you're looking at taking out any wall, doesn't matter what it is, isn't it probably a good idea to get a professional opinion on whether that wall can be taken out without causing structural issues?
I'd say it's probably a good idea. It wouldn't hurt to have us take a look.
Yeah, even if it's something you don't think would be load bearing. And this is one question that I know a lot of people ask me, is how can you tell if a wall is load bearing? I mean, if you're a novice, but you're, say, a little bit of a handyman, and how can you figure out whether it's a load bearing wall or not in your house?
The easiest way to tell that is if you have to determine the direction of the floor joist or the ceiling joist.
Okay.
So a load-bearing wall would be running perpendicular to the floor joist and perpendicular to the ceiling joist.
Right.
So
they don't run the same direction.
They don't.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you have a wall that's parallel to the ceiling joist, for example, in a regular, let's say a ranch or a three-step ranch, you have a kitchen and a dining room, and they're parallel to each other.
Right.
The wall that usually separates the kitchen from the dining room is running parallel to the ceiling joist. That's usually a non-load-bearing wall.
Okay.
The one that separates the kitchen from the living room generally is perpendicular to the floor joist and the ceiling joist. That's a bearing wall.
Okay.
That's a super common question we get.
Yeah. And, you know, you would be the perfect person to answer that question. So if you have access, say, the best way to know, you can go in your basement.
Yes.
And you can look at the joists there.
Exactly.
Or you can go up in your attic.
Exactly.
And look at it.
Yes.
Because they should run the same way.
They should. They don't always run the same way, but ideally they do.
Okay.
I'd say 95 out of 100 homes.
Yeah.
The joists mirror, the floor joists mirror the ceiling joists.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you crawl up into your attic or in your basement, you can tell a load-bearing wall by the way that your joists run.
Yes. You can also see, for example, if you go above your kitchen and you look above the kitchen and living room, those ceiling joists, usually they're 2x6s or 2x8s, they're lapped on that center wall. Again, this indicates it's a bearing wall.
Okay. So before you decide on that Saturday morning when your significant other says, let's just tear out this wall, maybe you want to pause for a little bit and do that. So if somebody wants to check out the structure of your home, what's the first thing that you would have them do? Obviously, give you a call and then go from there. If you're looking to have questions about the structure on your home, give us some insider tips on what that homeowner should be asking if they don't know anybody and they don't have a company. What are the key questions that they should be asking when they call and ask for information, or maybe you want to have somebody come by?
Like from the questions to ask a contractor.
Yeah.
Number one, you have to find out what is their level of experience.
Okay.
Are they a licensed contractor? The licensing and bonding is actually very easy for a contractor to get. They should be licensed. For example, we're licensed in the city of Chicago. We have 2 licenses with Chicago. And then we get licensed in the individual cities as we work in them.
Right.
Bear in mind there are 60 municipalities around the city of Chicago.
Yeah, they don't make it easy.
They don't make, well, It would be better if there was a state license, but there's not. There's a state license for a roofer, for an electrician, for a plumber, but not for carpentry and not for general contractors.
Yeah.
You have to be individually licensed in each community.
If you're calling and you want to find somebody that has, you have a question about your structure, maybe a repair. What is, obviously you want to make sure they're licensed and all of that. And their level of experience. What are a couple of questions you should ask them to realize you're working with somebody that's good?
Wow, that's a great question. In this case, if you're looking to, I want to back up a little bit. If you're looking to take out a wall or looking to make some major changes in your home, you can call a contractor. There's only 3 or 4 contractors in the Chicagoland area that do this specialty of structural repair.
Okay.
There's very few. You could also call an architect or a structural engineer to get some drawings made or make a sketch of what you'd like accomplished. The engineer is one of the most valuable pieces in this puzzle in renovation. I'll tell you why. Most architects don't do beam sizing. Engineers do beam sizing. What I mean by that, if you're going to take out, in that example of a ranch or a 3-step ranch, where we're going to take out the kitchen, the wall that divides the kitchen from the living room, and the wall between the dining room and the kitchen, that might be a 22-foot span that wall spans. Now, I would not ask the contractor to size that beam. I would ask an engineer to give us an idea how big that beam, whether it's a wood beam or steel beam. We want the engineer to determine the size, the strength, the height of that beam. The contractor then, like we're a contractor, we would take the results of that engineer's inspection, we would take his recommendations and price that job accordingly.
Great tips. Mark Hoffman, American Beam and Steel. You can call them at 708-212-6202 and check them out at abeamsteel.com. I'm Roger Piper, and this is Home Answers on AM 560, The Answer.
Your